But we begin this morning with the proposed new regulations for pet stores in the town of Hempstead. Animal lovers say they're needed to prevent abuse, but the pet shops say it'll drive them out of business. Window displays in pet stores featuring numerous animals up for sale will have to change drastically under new regulations being proposed by the town of Hempstead. Pet stores would be required to have at least 25 square feet for each animal on display, at least 100 square feet of space for every animal on premises, proof that the animals were not bred in puppy or kitten mills. Each pet would have to be spayed or neutered before sale, and pet shops would be required to have both sprinklers and fire alarms.
We are going to require fire and alarm systems in those retail shops to protect our dogs and cats. God forbid there's a fire.
Hempstead Town Supervisor Kate Murray acknowledges the tougher rules go beyond what Nassau County requires, but says they're aimed at preventing animal abuse.
We want to make sure that there is never a puppy mill in the town of Hempstead.
Animal advocates and rescue groups are applauding the new rules. They think it will lead to more adoptions of animals from shelters.
We always have these dogs that need to be rescued, and people want their purebred dogs. You know what? A mutt or a mixed breed is just as good as a pure breed.
We reached out to the owners of a half-dozen pet stores. None would speak on camera. All told us the tougher rules would drive them out of business. One owner claimed that spaying and neutering could cause the animals to gain excessive weight. Cat owner Barbara Kreis is certain the animals need more space.
I think it's about time. I think the animals will have a better place to live and to breed and to be adopted from.
And joining us now, Diane Madden from Hope for Hempstead Shelter, one of the animal activists who pushed for these new regulations, along with animal welfare attorney Elizabeth Stein, who's working with town officials on the wording. So welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Where do things stand on the regulations before the town board? This got postponed, and I'm wondering, why did it get postponed?
Well, I think one of the reasons it got postponed was we felt that it is a work in progress, and we want to make sure that this is truly the best that we can put out there. So working with town attorneys and town officials, we're hopeful that this will be a fabulous bill.
Well, let's stick with the legal side of this for a minute, because, you know, that would seem to be where the pet store owners have some confidence that they can shoot this down, saying that it unfairly targets them. You know, as I mentioned to you, they didn't want to go on camera, but they seem to have a lot of confidence that attorneys in the town's office were sympathetic to their cause and were either going to change this or scrap some of these regulations. Are you hearing that in your conversations with the town attorneys?
Well, you know, it's not that I'm hearing one thing or the other from my conversations. You know, having not spoken with the pet stores, the pet dealers, I have no idea where they're getting their information from, if the information is in fact accurate or not.
And we couldn't get a response from the town attorney's office on that.
Yeah, and again, I cannot speak on behalf of the town attorney, but I am very hopeful that a bill will be presented to the town board that will protect the consumers, the animals in the town of Hempstead.
Diane Madden, you pushed for these regulations. We'll give you a chance to explain why you think they're needed, but do you want to drive pet stores out of business?
No, what I would like to see go out of business are abusive puppy mills. Puppies have suffered for decades, and that needs to come to an end. And through this local law and new zoning, it will slow the amount of abused animals that have made their way into Hempstead.
You know, we've heard a lot about puppy mills, but I don't think people actually know what they are or where they are. How do you know what a puppy mill is, and why are they still in business if they're so bad?
Well, it really comes down to regulations.
Yeah, and basically puppy mills are commercial breeding facilities
that are legally allowed in the United States right now.
Yes, and they put profit over the welfare of the animals, and the reason that they're legal is because they're regulated by the Animal Welfare Act, which essentially sets minimal survival standards for these animals.
So you say minimal. Talk about the space requirements. I think anybody who's ever walked into a pet store has always wondered, where do these animals stay afterwards? I mean, you see them in the display cases, but how are they dealt with afterwards? Or what is behind the scenes?
Well, within the pet stores, no one really knows, and that's why there needs to be regulations and oversight and transparency there. Again, what is being stated by the pet dealers, we don't know what is truth. That goes to say for the same thing for pet store owners.
Is there any, I mean, is it abusive when animals don't have enough space? How is that abusive? Explain that.
Well, we believe it is abusive, and I think that the beauty of the New York state law, which is what is allowing the town of Hempstead and other municipalities to do what they're doing, is that the law is saying, yes, not only can you regulate the pet stores so that you are providing these animals with the best of possible care, but you can also determine who is sourcing the animals, where they are coming from, because we do not want puppy and kitten mill.
Well, there's no question.
In the stores.
Well, there's no question that it would add cost for them. I think everyone agrees, because they're going to have to dramatically increase the space. They're going to have to put in sprinkler and fire alarm systems, and they're going to have to do a lot more work on making sure they know where these animals come from. Paperwork. They may have to hire more staff. So, you know, clearly you have an argument there. But now there's what, a meeting coming up August 4th? Are you going to be at that meeting, and what are you going to do to try to get some of these regulations put through?
I've been working also in drafting these local laws, and I will be there absolutely to encourage Town Supervisor Kate Murray to pass this new local law that will not only help the town of Hempstead, but help other municipalities and counties as well, because it will be the first of its kind. And I applaud the town of Hempstead for their willingness to do this.
Are you hearing that the votes are there to pass it?
Pardon me?
Are you hearing from the board members that the votes are there to pass this?
I really have not heard that. I have gotten the distinct impression that the town supervisor wants to see this go through. She wants to protect the animals, and she does not want puppy mills sifting these abused animals into this township of Hempstead.
Well, she certainly has made that statement.
If I could just add one other thing, Richard, because not only is this an animal welfare concern, but this is also a consumer protection issue. And I think that's very important, and that's another reason why the town does want to do. They would like to pass this to protect the consumers as well.
Well, we're going to find out shortly in just a couple of weeks here on August 4th. We'll be taking this up as far as the news media following to see what happens at the August 4th meeting of the Hempstead Board. Thank you so much for joining us today. Diane Madden with Home for Hempstead Shelter, and also animal welfare attorney Elizabeth Stein. Thanks for stopping in and talking with us today about this.